Bill, November 5th coming up pretty soon, a couple more weeks. Tell me why you've been in public service now for quite a while, both in your military career and then in the years since, and now you're going back for more, or trying to. How come?
Well, my 20 years active in reserve, served on city council, served in the House. My children grew up in Virginia Beach. They graduated from Virginia Beach schools. I love Virginia Beach. I love the people of Virginia Beach. I love everything about the community. We've gotten a tremendous amount done. We focused on everything from health care, reducing the cost of health care, expanding coverage for those who need it, expanding coverage for autistic children, no matter what age you are. It used to be just 2 to 10 years old. It's to continue making a difference. On the transportation side, we've done the Lesner Bridge, the widening of I-64 almost all the way to Richmond. We've got plans to do, and money now set aside for the widening of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, the I-264-64 flyover. 264, we resurfaced 264 when it started crumbling apart 5 years ago. So we've done a tremendous amount in transportation. And to be honest, in the last 6 years, we've done more for transportation than the last 30 years. That's just one example of it. Look at education. On education, we're the #3 place for education in the country. We've just given a 5% pay raise to our teachers. We've just quadrupled the amount of money going to school safety. We're the #1 state to do business in. We want to be the #1 in everything. We want to create an environment for our businesses and families to thrive. I've been working on that for the last 13 years of public service. I'm going to continue working on that until we're #1 across the board everywhere.
Your seat is one, I guess, that has been identified by political observers as one for us to watch this November. Why do you think that district, it's not exactly red, it's not exactly blue, it's sort of purple. It seems to me that you're not a coin flip. I mean, you're not like Yancey up on the peninsula, but it's going to be very close. You know that.
Yeah, we're a +4, +5 Republican district. Outside influences from New York and California have put in a tremendous amount of money, 3, 4, 5 times what it takes to run a senatorial race. They believe they can flip not just the seat, they believe they can flip Virginia Beach, and they believe that the policies from California and New York are better for representation of Virginia Beach in Richmond. I believe that somebody from Virginia Beach who represents Virginia Beach, who cares about Virginia Beach, should be representing us in Richmond. I believe somebody who's worked for us time and time again, solving problems, getting things done, that's who should represent us in Richmond. I don't think voters or anyone else should be influenced by outside money out of the state of Virginia, out of Virginia Beach, and from New York or California. I don't think that should have an impact on elections.
But that is, I guess, maybe a reality of media, is that commercials aren't free and the candidates will take money from wherever they can get it, I suppose, and they have been for years. In your case, though, not. The majority of your money comes from
locally. In Virginia and Virginia Beach. Is that a source of pride
for you that that's the case?
Absolutely, Mike. It tells me people in the community support me. People in Virginia support me. It tells me I'm doing a good job in Richmond. It tells me I'm representing Virginia Beach well. We're a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We represent Virginia Beach to the government, to Richmond, to the state government. That's what we're about.
And so if anybody were to follow the money trail, then what do you think it reveals about this particular race?
Well, in my race, it reveals my opponents raised in September 1.4% of her money from the city of Virginia Beach. Most of her money comes from outside of Virginia, and a majority of that, 83+% of that, comes from New York and California. Is that really the message we want to accept and say, hey, New York, California, what's good for you is good for us? I don't think so.
Of the money that has been raised on the other side, a lot of it has gone into television commercials. One of the commercials I saw on TV this morning in your race, but it's very similar. It's like the same message that's in all the races of Republican incumbents. He voted 4 times against Medicaid expansion. How do you respond to that?
They're absolutely right. I did vote 4 times against Medicaid expansion. The reason I did that is we ignored and jumped over our most vulnerable population, We took the 13 to 26,000 people who are waiting on Medicaid waivers. We jumped over them. We ignored our most vulnerable population, and we expanded it for everybody else. So imagine if you had a special needs and intellectually disabled child, and you've been waiting 15, 20, 25 years to get a Medicaid waiver for your child to be covered, and we jumped over all of them and expanded Medicaid for everyone else and ignored that entire population. That population who we should be taking care of the most, we ignored them and did it for everyone else. That's why I voted against it. That's why I'll always vote against it. I believe that we've got to take care of those people who cannot take care of themselves. And frankly, I tried to hijack every bill I could to get that population covered. I tried to modify the budget. I tried to do anything and everything I could to ensure we covered that portion of the population. And we ignored them. And it's wrong. It's dead wrong. Those are the people we should be taking care of first.
On gun safety, after what happened in Virginia Beach on May 31st, Governor calls a special session, and then Republican incumbents now are getting beat up by their opponents for not allowing the session to proceed to study any of the bills that they put forward. And I think it lasted 90 minutes and everybody went home. Is that a fair criticism of the Republican majority?
Not quite, Mike, and here's why. So after the Virginia Tech shooting, Governor Kane set up the Crime Commission. That Crime Commission is set up of subject matter experts from mental health to gun legislation to law enforcement to the other side, the prosecuting side. It's covered everybody who could be have impact as a subject matter expert in this, from forensic experts to everything. These are the folks who are on the Crime Commission. So what happened was, just like in the Kane administration, we took all of the bills that arrived, and some of them 30 minutes before session started. We took that whole pile of bills and sent it to the Crime Commission for study. One of the bills I wrote, and I wrote 27 bills for this, 13 passed that day. The rest of them went to the Crime Commission. One of them was a study that looked at mental health and the issues involving communities that had a tragedy like ours, looking at all of these communities to figure out what are the commonalities, what are the indicators, and what is it that takes a normal individual, a normal sane individual, flips a switch and causes that individual to want to go in and cause harm to people they work with or people they don't know.
Criminal background checks, universal, yes or no?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in 2013 or 14, I opened up that section of the code and tightened it up. I closed a bunch of the loopholes. Then again, a couple of years later, we sat in and made sure that in every single gun show, there's a police officer there, state police officer, who will run a background check on anybody, anywhere. They'll run a background check before you sell a weapon to them.
Red flags and bump stocks.
Okay, first of all, bump stocks are already illegal. They're a modification to the trigger. They've been illegal for a long time. On red flag laws, you can't say red flag laws yes or no. You have to read what is it. You've got to lay out the level of the bills. What happens if my ex-wife is upset with me, or my ex-girlfriend is upset with me? She says he's mentally unstable. We have to go take all of his guns. Okay, what happens if she's only saying that because she's upset at me and she wants to get back at me? There's no ramifications, no repercussions on her. What happens if my neighbor upsets me and I do the same thing? Those are the things that, before you say yes or no on something, you've got to read the details of the bill. And Mike, you know this as much or better than anyone. It's what's in the detail of these bills that come back and bite us in the end.
This is true. What, just as we head into November 5th, then, what's your message then for someone who's showing up in the polling place and they're still flipping a coin, don't know how they should vote in your race? How should they vote?
Well, I think it's pretty easy. I think you should look at the accomplishments. From transportation to health care, we did cover pre-existing conditions in health care. They're covered today. I know out there it says otherwise, but you're covered today. All pre-existing conditions are covered. We've lowered the cost of health care. We're going to continue working on that. Look at our schools. We're number 3 in the country for schools. We want to get to number 1. We're number 1 as the top state to do business in. We've got to continue that. These policies we've put in place are critical to continue. We're a right to work state. If we lose that, we're no longer the #1 state to do business in. We fall down much, much, much below #1. And on the other side, we've got the lowest unemployment in 50 years right now. Things are going well. So, do you rehire the guy who's been doing it and brought you up into that position of the top? Or do you say, no, I want to try somebody new? And then risk what happens if we lose our right to work. Risk what happens if we raise minimum wage to $15, $20, $25 an hour. Look at what happens if we change all these other policies that we've put in place over the last 5, 10, 15 years to get us to be the #1 place to do business, #3 for education. It's up to the voters. This is a job interview. Every day is a job interview. And I hope the voters will come out and vote for me on November 5th.